Lawyers for the parliamentary researcher arrested on suspicion of spying for China have insisted that he is completely innocent. He's added that he'd spent his career highlighting what he called are the challenge and threats presented by the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, now the Commons Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, is to make a statement to the Commons due at 2:30, and then the Deputy Prime Minister, Oliver Dowden, to make a security statement and take MPs' questions a little later at 3:30. But right now, let's get the latest with our political editor, Christopher Hope, in our Westminster studio. And Chris, certainly Downing Street's, or the Prime Minister's official spokesman, earlier saying this is a decision for the police investigation. For MPs, they want some answers in the chamber.
Well, they will. I mean, I think the key statement is from Oliver Dowden. We expect that around 3:30 p.m. And, of course, we'll bring that to you on GB News and onwards. I mean, the PM is making a statement about the G20 where he's been over the weekend, where he raised concerns with his China, the Chinese premier there, about what is happening and is it possible that China is trying to infiltrate Parliament. Now, the individual concerned who's been arrested has strongly denied any idea that he's involved with the Chinese government. But there will be questions to Oliver Dowden at 3:30, the Security Minister, about whether the government is concerned about how many Chinese individuals or people linked to the Chinese state, forgive me, may be in Parliament. That's the concern.
The other question, Chris, is when Britain first confronted China about this, is it only since it came into the public domain, not when it actually, the arrest actually happened back in March?
That's right, Pip. The timeline is so important because the arrest happened in March. Since then, of course, James Cleverly, the Foreign Secretary, has been to Beijing with the first visit, I think, for 3 years by a UK senior minister. And since then, of course, we've got this new idea from the PM, Rishi Sunak, to try and engage more with China. The big concern for number 10, senior people in number 10, is that the UK is not at all engaging in any sense with China. The dial has almost swung completely from where it was under David Cameron and George Osborne, when I was one of the journalists that went on a 747 flight with business leaders out to Beijing to try and get trade deals for the UK, to virtually no communication under Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. I think Rishi Sunak is being pragmatic and trying to bring that back into the middle. So keep talking to China, raise concerns, but don't ignore them completely, because, of course, China is such a big player now globally, not least with this artificial intelligence summit coming up in November. The UK, I expect, will want China there because they are currently charging ahead with their own AI policies without any regard for the rest of the world. And that's why it's so important that China is spoken to and is part of the conversation.
And Kemi Badenoch indicating or stating that designating China as a threat would escalate things. How deep is the split in the government over what approach should be taken?
Well, it's not as split as you might think. I mean, in the old days, we had China hawks, China doves, didn't we, Mark? When the issue of Huawei, the Chinese company, was taken out of the UK telecoms infrastructure, and that was Theresa May wasn't sure, and there was a bit of a battle in Cabinet. Number 10 is keen to stress that although there are some noisy China hawks, notably former party leader Ian Duncan-Smith on the backbenches, they are, as the government sees it, in quite a minority. And the frustration, I think, is that the UK government hasn't really expressed what on earth is the policy on China. You have got various parliamentary committees raising concerns about it, but I think what should happen and may happen from the PM, Rishi Sunak, Oliver Dowden, and Kemi Badenoch, the Trade Secretary, as you say, there'll be further to try and emphasise the importance to China to the UK's interests, but working with them in a very careful, wary way.
This whole episode, Chris, is also raising questions about security at Westminster and the security clearances that go on and actually whether it's enough.
Yeah. That's right. I've just been having some lunch in Parliament and walk back, and I can walk through with my pass. I swipe it, I go in, have some food, and no one challenges me. What happens is you are checked every few years, and then you have the free run of Parliament. But you can't go through all the doorways. Some doorways are locked to your pass, etc. But that the concern is going to be who is allowed to go into Parliament. There are thousands of these passes out there, and I wonder whether we might hear more about that from Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker, at 2:30.